who adore the company's design your own ice cream. That showmanship and excitement turned some of those fans of the brand into new franchisees.
I couldn't believe people were waiting in Michigan in the wintertime to buy ice cream and pay a premium price for it.
It seemed like a fun atmosphere, and the kids were singing. My husband always really wanted to have his own business, so we saw it as an opportunity, and we just thought we could make it work.
I had an ice cream store prior that I ran that I enjoyed and made good money at, and I thought, well, going franchise and going with a national brand, how could you lose?
The company encourages that confidence, saying on its website, Cold Stone's franchise opportunities are about as solid as they come. Company President Dan Beam.
Cold Stone Creamery is a great business for the franchisee because it allows franchisees to do what they're passionate about. They get to spend quality time with family, kids, while making a great living.
But what Sean Marks, Nicole Eklund, Stephanie Lucarelli, and others with whom we spoke experienced in front of the counter was very different from what they say they experienced behind it.
My wife and I were good operators. We lived the Cold Stone core values. We ran the store according to their terms. We followed the system. We did everything the way we were asked to do it, and we weren't profitable.
I was like a racehorse coming out with two broken legs. I didn't have a chance. It was so stacked against us. All the costs were not what they were projected to be, and there was no room for profits.
Tell me about the franchise disclosure document. How much did you read through it?
I looked through, not the whole thing. I hired an attorney to look through it.
And what did the attorney say?
There was a couple of things where he had pointed out, you know, that there were red flags to him, and but all in all, in our decision, we pushed through.
All are now ex-franchisees. Cold Stone and its parent company, Kahala, say they did everything they could to help them succeed, to no avail.
My solutions for my problems were not an option for Kahala, and they'll say it was my fault.
How much information do you know about your franchisees from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, at one point, we actually attempted to collect the profit and loss statements from the community. It was one of my most frustrating professional career situations where franchisees were reluctant to send them in. When they did send them in, they were inconsistent. We actually had a few that were sent in to us written on a napkin, so we don't keep track of the profitability for that reason.
So you don't really know on an individual basis how your franchisees are doing on a net revenue?
No, they are independent business owners.
Eric Karp is an attorney who has represented franchisees for more than 30 years.
Are franchisees independent business owners?
They're sold on the basis that you can be your own boss, you can get a piece of the American dream, and you can somehow and at some point harvest that equity. But the reality is that every aspect of your business is controlled by the franchisor.
Before they sign on the dotted line, franchisees know they will pay royalties and marketing fees for the right to use the brand name and the business model. But they may not know all the specifics of something called rebates, fees that the franchisor receives from its affiliates or vendors that sell goods or services to the franchisees.
How common is it for franchisors to collect rebates?
You call them rebates, I call them kickbacks. And it is something that franchisors almost universally reserve the right to do in their disclosure documents. And it's something that many franchisors actually do.
Why do they do this?
They have a captive audience. They have a franchise agreement which allows them to specify the goods and services that a franchisee has to use or consume in the franchise business, and there's an opportunity for profit there. It's increasingly rare that a franchisor will pass that up.
Cold Stone's Franchise Disclosure Document, or FDD, says it can receive rebates on items from certain suppliers on purchases made on the supply chain. Former Cold Stone franchisee Cecil Roll now believes he understands what part rebates play in the pricing of Cold Stone's most important product, the proprietary sweet cream mix.
There's a percentage that they receive from the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer sells it to the distributor, and then when the distributor sells it to us, the distributor provides them with a kickback for that price as well. And then thirdly, when we sell the finished product to the customer, then they get a total of 9% for royalties and advertising.
Rebates are not illegal. But Roll, who once owned 3 stores, has been publicly fighting Cold Stone ever since the company terminated his contract for failing to pay money he owed. Cold Stone sued, and Roll's company countersued, alleging that Cold Stone misrepresented his chances for success. But Cold Stone prevailed in court and on appeal. Not only did the court affirm an $800,000 judgment in favor of Cold Stone, but it also stressed that the risks of owning a store are clearly detailed in the franchise agreement, and profits are not guaranteed. The company has repeatedly noted that the Cold Stone Roll converted into an independent ice cream store failed as well. For Cold Stone, Roll is still a thorn in its side.
At one time, our store was the second best in sales in the entire nation. The only store that beat us was the Times Square store. But still, we couldn't make a profit.
Roll continues to communicate with a number of former and current franchisees who share his frustrations. Ed Ramsey, a former McDonald's franchisee, owned 2 Cold Stone creameries. He expected the cost of food to be 23% of sales and paper to be 2%. Beam says that's around the number franchisees should hit.
I would say that current day, after talking to franchisees and reviewing P&Ls, the franchisees that I see are running a food and paper cost of in between 23 and 25%.
In 4 years, I never achieved 23%. Never.
How close did you get?
I was at 29, 30% instead. That's a huge difference. The reason the costs were so high was that Cold Stone received a rebate.
Robert Zarco is the lawyer representing Cold Stone's newly formed independent franchisee organization. He is currently being paid by Cold Stone in its disagreement with CNBC over this program. Zarco believes rebates are fine as long as the rate is reasonable and says franchisees can do more to keep costs in check.
If 29 is a little on the higher end in the ice cream sector, then again, go ahead and be proactive as a franchisee. Go to the franchisor and determine whether it's the product, which it can't be if other franchisees are running at 24, 25%, or the sourcing, or the handling, or one very large element that affects food costs is product going out the back door. In this economy, over the last 3 years, the amount of product that's going out the back door in all of these franchise businesses is substantial, and that has a direct impact on food costs.
Have you ever told a franchisee, one franchisee, how much you make on the sweet cream, how much you make on other parts of rebates?
No, that's competitive advantage.
Even with them investing what they're investing?
They have the information, I believe. We disclose a tremendous amount of information.
But after this interview, the company wrote to us that Cold Stone does not provide information regarding projected food costs or any other detailed financial information. The disclosure document also does not guarantee success.
This is the restaurant industry. It looks glamorous on the outside, but it is hard work. Making sure that store execution happens on a daily basis. The ones that do it well are incredibly successful, and others may not be.
Rudy Puig serves on Cold Stone's National Advisory Board and is a founding member of the Independent Franchisee Association.
And one of the goals of the association is to put our heads together to lower the food cost, lower it 0.5%, 1% to 1.5%, whatever we can do.
Puig is a current franchisee with whom Cold Stone allowed us to speak. He owns this store and is a partner in 2 others in the Miami area.
All my stores have been profitable, and I'm happy about that. Making sure a little bit gets in.
Beam says that Cold Stone already has one of the lowest food costs in the industry, and its store sales are among the highest in the ice cream business. Still, some franchisees charge that big sales don't help if the costs are too high.
If we had a flawed business model, we wouldn't have the number of stores that we have in operation. We wouldn't be growing in certain areas that we're growing.
Cold Stone is growing overseas, but in the U.S., its store count has fallen from 1,163 franchise stores in 2009 to 1,102 franchise stores by the end of 2010. The company stresses that 40% of all transferred locations go to current franchisees, which they say shows existing owners still want to grow with the brand.
I would say that if you look at any franchise system, you're going to have failures. I would put us in the ballgame with all the other competitors. We had our best October in 4 years. We're having our best sales run that we've had in several years.
But that rebound won't help the dozens of former franchisees who spoke to us.
I've never worked that hard in my life to survive.
It's affected my health, it's affected my marriage. Obviously, financially, I've been affected. I've known many people that have gone bankrupt, lost their homes, lost their 401ks, lost their kids' college education plan.
We did have to file for bankruptcy in this. I think I see us as the voices of everybody that's been affected by this. You think you've let it go and walked away from it and left it behind you, but it's still there.
There is a level of desperation in these people, ex-franchisees, even current franchisees. What's your take on that?
This is a tough economy. You know, like I said, it's the worst economy in 50 years. We are unfortunately going to lose stores, and we just absolutely feel terrible about that.
And I can understand there's some tough stories out there, and there's some franchisees that have had some tough times. I just think, you know, any entity or any person that's hurting our brand right now is hurting our existing business. The franchisees love the brand. They love the ice cream. We love our customers. We are in the business of making people happy.
Up next.